Welcome back. You are still watching Family Hour, and it is Church of Uganda Family TV, a Thursday where we discuss governance and leadership. And specifically today, we are discussing leadership trends in this era, you can say this current age. Now, I'm here with the Diocesan Chancellor of Kampala Diocese, Angwech, and she's helping us navigate through this. Now, I want to pose a question. In your own opinion, what skills and qualities do you think modern leaders, since we are discussing this era, can possess?
The first one is emotional intelligence, as I've spoken about, because an emotionally intelligent leader will understand their staff. Gone is the era where you had leaders who told you what to do, the top-down approach. I told you what to do, you did what I expected, and you returned what I wanted. I did not care what happened. When I started out in work, my boss then said to me that leave your problems, actually leave your church at the door when you enter, your church principles. And as you enter, do what is expected of you, pick up your church and go. I found that very distressing. Why? Because I'd got this job based on the fact that this person and I shared a faith and they were in my same church. So I didn't understand why someone who was in church with me was giving me this particular instruction. It was very difficult for me to understand. But over the years, I've realized that people have boxes. They have one for work, one for church, one for family. And I think it works best for men. It's men who mostly have boxes in their lives. It's very rare for ladies. Ladies, we intertwine everything. Everything connects to everything. And an emotionally intelligent leader, what they do is understand that people are human beings. Beyond just machines and accomplishing work and doing the tasks, they need to be cared for. And so having compassion, empathy, understanding what your staff or your employers are going through is critical in this day and age. So emotional intelligence is something that no leader can deal away with. Under emotional intelligence is what you call self-awareness as a leader also. Okay. We need to be self-aware. I'm reminded of a time. People assume that because you're a leader, you don't understand your weaknesses and your strengths. But you do. In fact, because you're a leader, they are more pronounced more than anything else. It's quite pronounced for a leader. And so if you are self-aware, people will have more respect for you. During a season, sometime we were all introducing ourselves, and we were asked to introduce ourselves based on introduce our characters based on a color that we thought about. And so I gave two opposing colors, and I said, I can be both. And it was so funny. People clapped in the room. It's actually the bosses then clapped. And I was so shocked. I asked them why later on. They said, we thought you didn't know that you could be both. But that's what makes a good leader, is that they can understand themselves. They are self-aware. They know when the stress is beating down on them. And so they know how to pull back. They know when they are beating into people. And so they know how to draw back. They know that their character can be overbearing. And so because of that, they know that this person may not be able to take their character. So they would send somebody else to deliver a message, or alternatively find a way and a suitable time to do it. So self-awareness is something that never goes out of style. The other critical characteristics...
Maybe before that, how about a leader who slaps their... Is that emotional intelligence?
Oh my God. I'm too close to this case to begin with, to even speak about it. I'm too close to this case. I think that it's an indictment on a leader. In fact, you're not a leader if you can do something like that. Because if you can't control your emotions, especially in the workspace, then you shouldn't have gotten the title in the first place. Because leadership is influence. People look up to you. People want to be like you. There is something about you that causes people to rise to that standard. Leaders coach, leaders train, leaders want to bring people to their level. That's what makes a good leader. So if a leader is not in control of their emotions and they end up slapping their staff or subordinate, that shows you somebody who is out of control. And if there's a leader above them, you should deal decisively with it, because you don't want a toxic environment environment. You don't want an environment where people fear to come to work, where people dive into their offices when the person comes, where people cannot work, cannot give their best. That is a very toxic environment. And so for me, it's an indictment on a leader because they don't understand their capacity. You should not be able to lose your cool. If you did that as a teenager, we would understand you are still growing. But an adult in their 30s, 40s, 50s, that shows you haven't mastered your emotions. You are not worthy to hold the position that you do. And the truth is that we all have different varying degrees of emotion that we carry. But the way, I think our parents taught us this, it was a very critical thing. They shouted at you to get to church. They shouted in the car as you got to church. The moment they stepped out of the car, they started laughing with everybody. So it was very confusing to us as children. People were laughing, but we had just quarreled in the car. And so then the sermon goes on and you feel that, I think they have been touched. They enter the car and continue where they left off. And you wonder, did church change anything? How come you're laughing with other people? But that's the view that most people have, because you're able to show the people who are close to you who you are, and outside you have a certain facade for people. And I'm not encouraging it, but I'm saying there is a place for every emotion. A leader should learn to master their emotion. And then I think lastly, a visionary leader is critical. Nobody likes a leader without a vision. Where are you taking us? Because what are you influencing us to become? So vision is important for every leader. Even those who it doesn't come easy, you can learn how to craft a vision, maintain a vision, go with a vision. Those are things that never go out of style. Integrity never goes out of style. In this country, I think we need a lot of integrity.
Oh, yes.
A lot of integrity. We are looking for leaders of integrity. Yes.
So what role does technology play under leadership?
Technology is very critical, especially in a time where we are developing as a nation. Technology is something that advances or shortens the time gap of production. So depending on the type of business that you have, especially businesses where you are churning out a certain productivity, you are able to leverage on that technology, and it shortens for you the gap that you would have had. If you know those days when people would need bread, and when you're making cake at home, you did the blue band and the butter and the sugar, and you took it through a spoon. Our parents used us as labor those days. A spoon with butter to churn it out to make it soft enough to put it in the bread. Time has changed. Time changed. They got a mixer where you could just put it in a mixer in less than 2 minutes. It's done. It's mixed to perfection, and you can bake well. And so it's also changing over time. The factory made it much bigger. They got a bigger mixer, and so things change. Technology develops over time. So the role of technology in leadership is to shorten the productivity model, to give you a level of excellence that you're not able to produce. And for a leader, it provides for you the data that you need, especially about your employees. I gave the example of Zoom earlier on. So if leaders should need to leverage this, because if you need data, and certain data you cannot collect, you can collect it using technology. We were using the Zoom app of church, I think, to try and harvest people's emails. And yet I found that they were using their own, meeting ID for everyone. So if you go to harvest the data, it has the only one meeting ID of the church. A leader could recognize, how do I communicate to people? Rather than making people register daily that they are members, you can harvest that data. You can harvest that data by having people log into your Zoom call. And so you give them that, you are allowed to switch it and to have unique IDs, so that when you're done, you're generating for yourself a database. As for things that work on databases, businesses that work on databases, churches work on databases, you need people and you need that information. What do you do as a leader? Harvest that data. That's why technology has been provided, for you to harvest that data and use it for your own advantage. Use it to reach the number of people, depending on the kind of business that you have. If it's a production, the machinery, the newest machinery shortens the time of production. If it's things that require data from people, there is a way to leverage. That's why you will see in most developed countries, even if they send you free material, they'll ask for your email.
Oh, yes.
Why? Because after that, they're going to send you information. They'll give you the permission to subscribe or unsubscribe. They'll give you permission to receive their newsletters or not to receive their newsletters. But what they have really done is retain your data. Similarly to, I think, all these apps that come where they make people change the way they look. What's that thing that they do on Instagram where you change the way that you look, give you proper photographs, all these things. Exactly. You'd have this is not verified yet, but what I did find is that certain people were collecting data from people. While people were happily taking photographs of themselves, especially the ones that were the time where it said aging, or sometimes now with me. So the aging one, people stopped it. So now they came with the one where you look great, have professional photographs. That data is being harvested. It's being harvested.
Sure.
It's what it is. The same as you tap onto YouTube. It follows the algorithm that show what you're really watching, same as Instagram. It brings up the things that you're interested in. What is the person doing? They're harvesting data.
Even LinkedIn.
Yes.
It has to take everything of yours, and when you're like applying for a job, you don't need to even put in a resume. It puts it for you.
Puts it for you. So you see, those things are coming out for us. And it is good that you understand that. A good leader would recognize that depending on my business, if I need data, I can get it. If I need to shorten productivity, I can do so. If I need to learn more about my employees, I can do that. I don't need to engage them physically. That is the advantage of technology. Someone who leverages on that will be a step ahead of most leaders.
What is the importance of leaders embracing this, or them taking up precaution of learning more about technology and digitalization?
It becomes useful for you as not just even in leadership, but also for the members. Because when the members realize that they can get what they want, using this short productivity, people are interested. People will become innovative. If you give people an opportunity to be innovative and engage and introduce these tools, you will find that while you are not a nitty-gritty, you're not an implementing partner or an person who implements the role, your people who are technical know the phases more than you do. They know what's on the market more than you do. Give them an opportunity to interact and bring these solutions to the board or to the table, and you will find that they'll be innovative. And if they can become innovative, then you're able to churn out. Both of you are meeting your goals. Your people are growing. They are happier. Their well-being is happier. But also you are getting productivity at the end. Which leader would not want that?
Yeah, sure. And then how should they best practice the technology? Because we understand we are headed so much into digitalization. But remember, there are precautions, or there are side effects of this. What best practice do you advise?
I think it depends on your different level of leadership, especially for government leadership. The data protection and privacy has got to be top-notch. Top-notch. Because by the time you introduced, mobile money? Was it mobile money or over-the-account transactions? There was no regulation. There was no total regulation that dealt with them. Even online platforms, there's no regulation that dealt with them. And so scammers and people use these platforms to go ahead, and yet you could not hold these people accountable. And so it goes back to the leadership. That data protection and privacy is without a doubt something that you need to do. And so having laws in place that help people and ensure that people are not scammed, people's lives are not taken off, people are not scammed, or their economic livelihood is not taken away from them is important. So a leader, one, should have laws in place. Then that leader needs to learn how to engage with technology, because all of us are learning. None of us knows it perfectly. I mean, gone was the era when you train your parents, you still do, know how to use their phones back and forth. And now even the younger generation, there are things I learned on my phone because a child picked it and was playing with it. And I said, oh, that's possible. And so funny enough, the things that I've really learned besides calling and texting was because a child was playing with my phone. And so as they played with it, I saw things that it could do. And I was shocked, I was surprised. But that's what happens. You have a creative generation coming after you. I'm surprised. I was like, oh, you can take photos like that. Oh, you can make them black and white as you're taking. You don't have to change it after. I didn't know that, and I have an iPhone. So I didn't know that. I saw a child, a 3-year-old child playing with my phone, and I watched as he played with it, and I said, okay, that's interesting. I've never thought of that. Oh, there's a panorama. Oh, that can happen. And so technology is transforming and changing. You don't know everything. I get a tool, I look at it, I'm not going to read the manual to see what it can and cannot do. I'm going to learn on the job. And so a good leader needs to know, how do I leverage technology? How do I make use of it? And so I learn, but I also coach my team. I coach people to use it. I coach people. I encourage people to use it. It's difficult, especially when you haven't started with it in a workplace and a place has been well established over the years. Things like that are very difficult. So what do? You bring in experts, consultants, people who are well versed with this particular technology to help people, give people time. Say, for example, now you see, I'm not talking about as technology, but IFRIS. Give an example of IFRIS that's happening and it's taking Uganda by storm. The biggest complaint from the traders is not that they don't want to use IFRIS, but they don't understand it. They don't understand it. There's not been enough education about it. Now, whether they has or they hasn't, when someone says they have not received the communication, they have not received it. It doesn't matter that it doesn't take away from the fact that you have tried to give people education. So a smart leader will now know. Go to those people who are saying they don't know about it. Where should I train them? What are the more acceptable days? Where are the places that I can get them? How do I now work with them so that they can? It could be an excuse, that's the truth. I mean, Ugandans, no human beings are always full of excuses, but it doesn't hurt as a leader to address it the best way you know how, using them, because when you sit down with them and say, all right, we have done the training back and forth. Maybe you have not had the opportunity to learn from it and we are imposing it on you, or you need to use it. So how then can we meet you? And so now it calls for URA to work diligently with the people, the traders, so that they can learn how to use the system, integrate it. Let them know the value. What is it doing for them? What is it doing for the government? When something is only beneficial one side, it's difficult for people to accept it. So as a leader, what do you do in such cases? Show the benefit for the traders, show the benefit for the people, allow them to interact with the platform so that they know what they can do. Because even bigger businesses at some point had to be forced into it. We had URA staff standing at exits of supermarkets just so that they would see the system was integrated. So if you had a problem even with bigger markets, how much more with people downtown who are big traders in this particular country who contribute to the GDP. And so it's important as a leader that you are learning, harnessing, listening to the people, bringing in consultants, bringing in trainers, making it useful and selling it to people such that it's useful for them, but it's also useful for you.
There's a big scare that if we go much into technology, there will be some loss of jobs. So how do we address this? People are scared that if we embrace so much of technology, then somehow, somewhere, we may need to go unemployed.
Upskilling, and I think that's what we were talking about previously. The leaders need to upskill, not just themselves but the individuals, because the technology doesn't work on its own. You're not going to press a button. Who's going to be there to press the button? Someone has to start it, somebody has to stop it, right? It's true that some jobs may become obsolete. It's true. But what then do you do as a leader? You upskill. You change the kind of skills that you have and that the employees have. You take people back to school, back to certain courses. That's why most entities are constantly developing. They are constantly sending people back courses. You'll see big institutions have people doing certificate courses time and time again, whether it's financial intelligence, it's insurance, it's how to handle data protection, it's how to protect gadgets back and forth. They are sending people for these courses because the world is not short of these courses. If you give people that opportunity, then you are closing the gap. You are allowing people to see it for themselves. So what you do to plug that gap is to upskill, to educate people, to allow people to see it from a different scale, because technology is here to stay. It's here to stay. It's not going. And the sad part about it is going to keep developing. It's going to keep shifting. Even what the Gen Zs are posing or are proud about it's not going to last for long. There's going to come another generation that's going to develop something. And so what do? You keep learning. When we were growing up, our parents used to say that you never stop learning. Learning is a continuous process. It goes on and on and on. And so it's a call for us as leaders and as employers to constantly engage with these platforms, engage with them, do the necessary study, do the upskill yourself, study about them, engage with platforms. In fact, open up markets to people that understand these things. Let them inform you. Let them show you how it works and how you can leverage it for your own benefit. So are people going to, some jobs going to be obsolete? Perhaps. But if you don't want to become obsolete, get ahead of the curve.
Okay. So how can leaders maintain their integrity in their roles they play during leadership?
That's, integrity is really a character trait. It's a character trait. It's one of those things you don't learn. Yeah, it's something that you naturally, intrinsically have. But to be fair, there are certain parameters that's why systems come into place, so that people can walk a certain line. When you have someone who's a thief from childhood, we're not going to change it, right? Okay. Apart from exorcism, we're not going to change it, unless we take the person to some deliverance or exorcism. So what we're going to do is put systems in place that are going to help someone be a person of integrity. So how do leaders promote integrity? That's like asking people to change people's character. And so beyond exorcism, which I find very, very interesting, I think that you need to, one, train people of the value of certain things. When people see a benefit to themselves, they are more likely to agree to something. Put systems in place. That when systems are in place, people are forced to walk and toil a certain line. They are forced to walk in a certain route. So you put systems in place. Everybody is required to account. You account receipts. Everybody is required to do this. Those are some of the systems that help people to be people of integrity. The other is accountability. Accountability goes without much saying. We all need to be accountable. I mean, not just even in work spaces, but even in our family lives, in our spiritual lives. Every area of our lives has got to be accountable. And so having accountability is key. So how do you put measures that cause people to be accountable? That's why you have things such as the Leadership Code Act. So people account for the wealth that they have. People account for how they are spending their money. You have things like value for money audit, where people come and say, what was the value for money? We gave you this amount of money. This was the intended target. Why wasn't it spent, or how was it spent? You have different levels of government and accountability. How is Parliament being accountable to the public? How is the executive, the judiciary? You have levels of accountability. That's something that cannot be overstretched for a leader, because a leader who is not accountable is a leader who can't be one of integrity. Accountability is critical in a person developing the character of integrity. And so it's important, especially as you grow up, to be accountable to people.
Okay. And we have had some challenges of some leaders not wanting to go for accountability. What sort of leader is that?
That is a leader who needs to be shifted out of their position. But also, truthfully, that shows a person who's hiding something. And it starts at home. It really does start at home. So as a young person, as you grow up, when they're looking for certain money. I saw a clip yesterday where a parent was getting a child out of a place, a store, and they asked the child, what have you got? Nothing. So they opened their hands, nothing. They said, let me see your mouth, nothing. Let me see, nothing. The child continued to walk away, and the parent followed them and then hit them because they pretended to have a pamper when they had eaten something inside there. Now, this is like a 3-year-old. Wow. This is a 3-year-old. It's starting so young. And then the child laughed at the parent and said, oh, go away. And the parent laughs with the child and goes on. And I thought to myself, that was African? A teaching. No. Oh. I said, that is Africans will not be recording it. I don't think you'd be seeing a recording of Africans doing that. But that's a teaching moment. That's a moment for a parent to teach a child about issues of accountability. So what I can't teach you. I have to put systems in place. And so those systems will enable you to be accountable.
Okay. Well, very interesting discussion here from Diana, giving us what it means for the leadership trends in this era. But well, I would love you to give us your last remarks as we wind up this.
Well, leadership trends, leadership is shifting across the country and across the nation and the world globally. And the leader that is willing to adapt to the change and adapt to the changing trends is one that is likely to be ahead of the curve and the one that is likely to succeed. It goes without saying that people who are in the next generation, most like the Gen Zs, have become the bigger workforce. So what a leader can do is adapt to the trends, adapt to the changes, adopt technology. Do not shut it out. Don't shut out things you cannot understand. Embrace them, learn from them, collaborate with people. One that is willing to be humble enough to learn is one that will be exemplary and will become a person of great influence.
Well, thank you so much, Diana. Well, it is very important for a leader to adopt to the new trends. I can assure you, if you recall sometime back during campaigns, sometime back, a big person came up and sang a song for campaigns, yes. But anyway, we all know that song, Benkoni. That was the trend then. And of course, it managed to gather up so much trust from the voters, meaning the person they are to vote for was flexible enough to reach to that extent. Well, that means adopting to the new trends is the way to go for the leaders out there and those who want to be leaders. This is important, and we appreciate that I trust you have benefited so much from this particular discussion. My name is Luke Majumba Alnaitwe, and I've been sitting in for Edwin Austin Mukalazi. We appreciate and wish you a lovely night.